Hello and welcome to the black metal party that never stops. This is one-on-one with the Grim One, and I am your host, the most electrifying man in corpse entertainment, the Necrosexual! And joining us on this very civic-minded discussion, we have a metalhead who is making waves all over both the metal world and the political geosphere as they're running for Sheriff of Cheshire County, New Hampshire. Welcome, Aria Dimezzo. Aria, how the hell are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Slept in a little late today, but otherwise great.
Rock and roll, baby.
Birthday, by the way.
Thank you. Yes, birthdays are totally grim, and it's always a pleasure to talk with a like-minded pervert. So tell us, Aria, you are running for Sheriff. Tell us a little bit about your platform that you're running on, first and foremost.
Well, the platform is essentially fuck the police. I don't know if... I guess you're good with me saying that.
Yeah.
I should have asked.
My virgin ears, yes.
That's essentially the platform, and as I've been clarifying to people, it's not like, fuck what the police are supposed to be. I don't say fuck the idea of people who are paid to go out there and actually help people and protect people. Sorry about my cat.
Cat in the shot, nice.
Yeah, she does that. But what the police are today is just a violent criminal enterprise that runs around extorting people, kidnapping people, and aggressing against peaceful people. So yeah, fuck that group. But as far as this group that actually just goes out and protects people and helps them, I don't have an issue with that. That's just not what the police are in the modern United States. And here comes the other cat.
Nice. We got a cat parade on my birthday. And you're also running as a Republican. So did you ever think you would see the day that you'd be running under the Republican platform for a political office or for sheriff?
Well, I'm not running under the Republican platform, really. And the Cheshire County and New Hampshire Republican parties have both come out and said, hey, Aria's positions are not at all in line with the Republican positions. I was like, well, no, of course not. I'm as opposite of your positions as a person can be. Because they're all about the bootlicking nonsense. Support the police, thin blue line, all of this crap. And I'm like, no, Black Lives Matter, fuck the police.
Indeed. And when did you get the idea? What gave you the inspiration to run for sheriff? How did this come to fruition?
Well, the Republicans gave me the inspiration, in fact. When Libertarians lost major party ballot access in 2018 here in New Hampshire for doing poorly in the governor race, we had no option but to either go out and petition and collect signatures to get on the ballot or to just switch to one of the major political parties. And here in Cheshire County, the Republican Party is basically non-existent. It's a bunch of very old people who, and there's no youth coming in, so giving them 10 or 15 years and there won't be a Republican Party here in New Hampshire. So we're looking at the long view here of, okay, well, we're coming in, there's no one else to replace these people, and we're just going to inherit this political apparatus that they already have in place. So we created the Keene Cheshire County Republican Committee, and they actually put Ian Freeman, who is now my campaign manager, as the chair of this organization, and I attempted to be its secretary. But they turned out this massive crowd of people just to vote against me, and these people had never been to one of the Republican meetings that I had been to, and these things are horrifyingly bad. So don't even get me started on how bad their meetings really are. But they turned out like 10, 15 people. And got to remember that I said that they're basically dying here. So there's no one there really. But on this meeting, it was like 3 to 4 times the normal number of people. And most of them showed up just to vote against me. And as soon as these little elections were over, they left. They had no intention of staying for anything. They showed up just to vote against me. So I was like, okay, that's how this is going to be. That's how it's going to be. They found out I was going to run for a state representative. And the secretary of the Cheshire County Republican Committee decided to run for that same position. So I was like, all right, well, if I run for this, I'm going to have to campaign in a primary against the secretary of the party here. And that's obviously I'm going to lose that. So instead, I'm going to file for something else. And I noticed that the person who filed for Republican sheriff had not, who had been historically filing for Republican sheriff, had not done so. So I went and filed for that.
There's a new sheriff in town, maybe. And of course, with the metal world taking notice of you as well, tell us about your choice of your campaign song, why you selected the song, and who it was by for your campaign.
The campaign song is by Trivium. The song is The Heart From Your Hate. I've never excuse me while I deal with this. I've never listened to a lot of Trivium. I like Trivium, and I mean, I obviously love metal. But Trivium was never a band that was really on my radar because I'm more into things like A Perfect Circle and more melodic type of rock music. But once I heard this song, The Heart from Your Hate by Trivium, I was like, man, that's fantastic. It's right in line with the message I'm saying, because that's all the conservatives want to do is just repeat the past, repeat the past, repeat the past. And yeah, if you're living in the past, it's easy to be right about things that have happened. But we're no longer living in the past. We're living in the present. And the song itself, it's got some awesome guitar licks. It's just a great song all around.
Yeah, so you have an excellent ESP guitar collection in the background, so it looks like you're a bit of a shredder.
I am indeed. There are, I think, 4 guitars hanging up on the wall behind me, and then the bass behind me. This is actually my music studio that I'm recording this from.
Excellent, excellent. Do you have any musical projects on the horizon?
I do. I've been working with a new singer. I don't know if she wants me to reveal her name publicly, but you can find some of our covers of A Perfect Circle songs. Right now we're working on an original song, but it's like 9.5 minutes long, so it's going to be a long time before we actually get it complete. I'm also in a rock band called FUD, which played a concert at, this cat, man. They know I'm doing something and they want to be part of it.
Of course. They want to be part of the show.
FUD, we came up with the idea in like the middle of May. We're like, hey, we're all musicians. Let's put a band together and let's play at this festival that we're holding. We had no actual experience playing with each other prior to this, and our musical styles are all drastically different. So within the span of like 6 weeks, we had as many practices as we could. We worked out as much cover material as we could, and then we went out and we played this absolutely horrible show that I'm deeply, deeply ashamed of. Look, it's not my fault that it's nobody's fault that it sounds that bad, right? We did our sound checks during the day. Everything sounded great. And then for whatever reason, the sun set, we waited, we went on, and the sound was absolutely horrible. I was the only person you could hear. And that wasn't the case during any of the sound checks. But
yeah, Murphy's Law sometimes tend to happen during live shows at the most awkward times. But hey, are you really a metal musician if you don't have at least one horrifically bad concert in your repertoire? So this is One-on-One with the Grim One, and what that means is each week my guest selects one album that holds a special place in their hearts. So Aria, tell me about the album you have selected to talk about.
I selected The Wall because it's probably, well, it is. It's my favorite overall rock album ever. The story is great. I mean, it's just about this guy who's got a troubled past, and he isolates himself from humanity until the point that he comes to hate humanity. And that was the whole point of Pink Floyd's The Wall, is that Pink Floyd became this great big band that they had actual fences separating them from the fans. They lost touch with their fan base. They lost touch with other human beings.
Ah, that's an interesting interpretation.
What Roger Waters says inspired him to write The Wall, is that this band was climbing up the fence that protected them from the fans, and Roger Waters just, for whatever reason, spit in the fan's face. And this made him go back and reflect on it. So why was I so angry at this guy that I spit in his face? It's like, because we've been disconnected from them. I mean, this is the same band that started out playing little bars in England, right?
Yes.
You know, they're spitting in their fans' faces. So they
yes.
reflected on that, like, it's because of this, we created a wall between us and them.
What's your favorite song off The Wall?
Probably The Trial, the very last song on The Wall.
And of course, there's also the motion picture version of The Wall, if you want to watch it. Yeah. Pink Floyd, they are certainly a band, while they're not the heaviest band, although they are pretty damn heavy. Some great solos, some great guitar tones, courtesy of David Gilmour. They're a band that holds a special place in my heart. As a matter of fact, I often say, it's not a phase I'm going through, Dad, which is true. But my father introduced me to Pink Floyd when I was like 5 or 6 years old on car rides. He had Dark Side of the Moon and The Wall on cassette and CD, and I remember that music was the first time I had my 6-year-old brain completely blown. You know, it was like an acid hit in musical form. And I remember, like, in first grade, finding one of my classmates being like, dude, you gotta listen to this band. And he was more concerned about snack time at recess. But I remember it was really something that blew my mind. And so it's excellent to hear people who have a similar idea. What about you? What was your first impression, if you can take us back? Do you remember the first time you heard that album or the first time you heard Pink Floyd?
I unfortunately couldn't because my father also similarly listened to, 70s and 80s rock all the time. So I was probably like 3 or 4 years old the first time I ever heard like Comfortably Numb or something like that. And it would have just passed by my radar. And then, of course, everyone falls in love with Another Brick in the Wall Part 2. Part 3 is way better. I don't know why anyone pays attention to Part 2. Part 3 is where it's at.
Part 3 is a cult classic.
It was when I watched the movie that I really fell in love with the album. Because the movie has so much just raw anger in it that doesn't really come out in the musical album. There's anger in the album, but it's nowhere near as prominent as it is in the video.
Indeed, and here's some dark knowledge I'm curious to see if you know about. Certainly everybody talks about, hey man, if you listen to Dark Side of the Moon while you watch The Wizard of Oz, it kind of syncs up, even though the album ends like 30 minutes into the movie, which I don't think is true. But if you watch the final scene of 2001: A Space Odyssey, Jupiter and Beyond, to the song Echoes by Pink Floyd. Have you ever heard that?
Of course.
Yeah, so you know that it totally syncs up second for second?
Really? I did not know that.
Apparently Roger Waters wanted to do the soundtrack to 2001, and they didn't do it, but if you do it, watch that song, watch that final scene, 2001, maybe have some recreational jazz cigarettes or something. It will totally sync up second for second, and that doesn't seem like it's widely known. Everybody talks about The Wizard of Oz, but not 2001: A Space Odyssey, so I'm here to spread that message.
Well, that's awesome. I will definitely have to check that out. I've seen The Dark Side of the Moon synced to The Wizard of Oz, and it syncs up in places, but it's clearly not intentional. Because as you pointed out, the album ends like not even halfway through the movie.
Indeed. So, Aria, who do you think the biggest poser out there today is?
Kid Rock. I mean, he claims to be this southern white trash, rock guy, and ultimately, his dad owns like car dealerships in Michigan and all of that.
Yeah, I've seen pictures of his estate that he grew up on, and it's very different than the image that he, put forward back in the day.
He's definitely a poser. There are a lot of posers in the music industry today. You have, I think Kid Rock and Limp Bizkit, that era in the late 90s, really opened the way for all of these people to ride the popularity of rock. But the biggest issue I have with rock bands of today is you have people like Korn and Disturbed just singing about how awful it is to be a rock star, how terrible it is to have all of the women, drugs, and sex they want at any time they want. They're like, oh, this is such a terrible life. Pity us, please. Like, Korn, shut the fuck up, dude.
Yeah, it sounds like a good time to me. If you can't stand the heat, stay out of the hell.
It's like, dude, this is the consequences of your action. Obviously, it was going to involve some pressure to become famous. You were going to have people harassing you. You were going to have deadlines that you had to meet and all of this other nonsense. They're like, oh, but the studio companies are soulless and they're bleeding us dry. I was like, dude, shut up and do your coke.
Rock stars today, they've gone soft. They don't do it like they used to anymore.
Like Disturbed did a show at the Wells Fargo Stadium in, I think, New York City or something like that. And this was right after Wells Fargo was busted as stealing money from people by opening accounts under their names. And Disturbed was like, yeah, we're going to be playing at this venue. I was like, you're playing at a venue that was literally just busted stealing from their customers. And you dare call yourself a rock band? You dare call yourself rebels? You're the ultimate sellouts here. Go back to your fucking Monster sponsorship playing at your Wells Fargo venue. Pussies.
Well, that's the type of sheriff I want to hear talking. Hell yes. So you have the election coming up. Why should people vote for you?
Because I represent an actual change, something radically and drastically different that hasn't ever really been tried before. So let's try it. It can't possibly get worse, right? We have a presidential election coming between two senile old white dudes, one of whom sounds like a rapist and one of whom sniffs children's hair. How much worse could it get? Let's give it a shot. Let's just elect the tranny anarchist here to be sheriff. It can't possibly get worse than Joe Biden and Donald Trump. So what do people have to lose?
Indeed. And when is that election coming up for you in New Hampshire?
It is coming up on November the 3rd, the same day as the general election.
November the 3rd. A November to remember, I hope. And I certainly hope it goes well for you in New Hampshire and for the denizens of Cheshire County. So thank you, Aria, for going one-on-one with the Grim One. What would you like to say to all the heavy metal hellraisers watching at home and around the world?
To keep raising hell. You know, the system that we rage against is not the toaster. It's the political system. It's the state apparatus that is constantly pushing its boot on our neck. Continue raging against that machine.
Indeed, and making posers afraid. Well, this has been one hell of a birthday dispatch. I am the Necrosexual. Thank you, Aria Dimezzo. Check her out at ariaforsheriff.com, and I will see you in hell.
Drunk on your tears, I'm packing the hammer to cram down your throat. I'll celebrate with an orgy at your funeral.